Okay, hello and welcome to the next session in our Dynamics Cloud Essentials webcast series. We are here today for the session, How ISVs Monetize the Cloud. I'm Jason Gumpert, and joining us for today's event is a returning speaker, Greg Pierce, Vice President of TriBridge Concerto Cloud Services. And as we get started today, I just want to add that we do invite you to add your feedback and ask questions during Greg's session. You can use the Q&A block or the chat that you'll see on the right side of the webcast session here. Without further delay, I would like to welcome Greg and also put up our first poll question today. We're going to have a couple for Greg to take you through. So let me just make that visible. And Greg, are you there?
I'm here. Hey, Jason. Thank you.
All right. Hey. Yep. So that first question, you can see there, what percentage of your business is cloud-based today?
We'll give people a few minutes to couple minutes to answer.
Okay, I'll post the results as soon as people fill in their choices.
Okay.
Maybe 5 more seconds here. All right. Well, Greg, it might be about another 10 seconds before we see the results. Well, I can see them. I'm not sure you can yet, but the percentages. So 25% say 0, 31% say 20%, and then just a fraction say 50 or 80 or more.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. So today, what we're going to talk about is how ISVs and audience today, I think, is primarily ISVs. How you monetize the cloud, and I think there's people that are at different phases in this movement to the cloud, and I think the poll is telling, and it speaks to the marketplace in general. You have 25% of the respondents saying that there is no move whatsoever yet to the cloud. So what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about the current state of cloud computing, why ISVs are looking at cloud, and a lot of that is driven by your customers and their needs and what they're looking to accomplish. When people look at solutions for whatever it happens to be, from a dynamic standpoint or others, if it's enterprise content management, if it's an EDI solution, whatever it is, one of the questions that used to just kind of pop up every now and again was, is your solution ready for cloud? And that's really started to flip, and what we've seen is over the course of maybe the last half of last year and really accelerating the beginning of this year, is the first question that comes to mind is this a cloud solution? Is it a SaaS solution? And if it's not, then there's not even the chance to present the solution to that customer. So once you get to the point where you decide you're going to look at a move to cloud, then there's a few decisions that need to be made, and some of those tie to finding the right cloud provider to work with. And really, not only finding the right cloud provider, but in some cases, organizations decide that they're going to go down the route of building on their own and the different pieces that tie to that. So behind or besides the technology pieces, I think what's important is to understand all the different transformations that tie into moving from a traditional premise-based application to a cloud-based application, and the things that need to be put in place, not only from a technical perspective, but from a sales standpoint, from a business process standpoint, and from an operational standpoint. We'll close out with Q&A. I'll tell you at a few points during the presentation, I'll pause just in case people have questions and they'd like to get them out in the open before they kind of get away from you. So I am Vice President of Concerto Cloud Services for TriBridge. I run our cloud services, which is a virtual private cloud solution. If you look at TriBridge and why we're qualified, I think, to be able to speak to ISVs about this movement. We were the U.S. ISV Partner of the Year for Cloud Solutions in 2013. We have a whole bunch of Dynamics awards as well. And I think that one of the things that we've established at the beginning of this year is a very tight relationship. Well, we already have a relationship with Microsoft, but the parameters of a program that is going to help ISVs in this movement to the cloud. And we are partnering with Microsoft on that effort. So I think, one of the things that led us to build out a program to help ISVs move to the cloud is our own cloud journey. And we have been working in the dynamic space for quite some time. And in parallel, we had cloud solutions. And our cloud solutions were really tied to infrastructure as a service in some particular verticals. And somewhere around the end of 2010, and then moving into 2011, we really decided that we wanted to build out a cloud platform. And it wasn't because we were looking for new revenue streams or looking for a business model transformation or anything like that. It was because our customers were asking for it. When we started looking at the landscape and decided that we really needed to build out our own virtual private cloud to be able to host our customers, because in the case of ERP, we believe that definitely a virtual private single tenant model is the way to go, and that a multi-tenant type of environment for at least that specific application doesn't make a ton of sense. So we went through different iterations of how to build out our own technical footprint, and I'll tell you it took somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 years to solve all of the different service delivery components, to figure out operationally how we handle the different pieces that tie to it, what our capital model looks like, and so far as what we're going to add underneath to make the cloud platform run. There's a lot of different pieces that we put in place, and then tied to that was, how do we build revenue here, and what is important to us? How do we make sure that our customers understand what we have from a cloud perspective, and how do we get the value proposition in the heads of our sales reps? How do we help our accounting group get to a point where they understand exactly how to bill for this, and what a monthly recurring revenue model looks like on a P&L compared to what it looks like when you do upfront implementation. So all those things really we had to work through and iron out and kind of sweat through over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. We had some significant milestones along the way. There are points because we had built out all of our own infrastructure and our own network operations center. Pretty early on, we reached the break-even point, and that's because we were successfully bringing customers on. And I think throughout it all, what we learned was that a almost fanatical attention to detail and quality was hugely important, because no matter how good things looked from a sales perspective or a marketing perspective, really what kept customers there and what kept customers coming was the ability to deliver on exactly what we said we were going to do. So I think most of you on here are here because you believe that there is a movement to cloud computing, and there's a ton of conversations about cloud 3 years ago. They haven't gone away. There's still the same level of communication and I think talk about cloud, and it's not a passing fad. It's too good of an operational model to go away, and you're going to see a continued investment in cloud and a continued adoption. Actually, Gartner, Forrester look at cloud and think by 2016 there'll be an intersection and more software packages will be delivered via SaaS than are delivered on-premise by that point. And after that, of course, it's just going to keep accelerating towards SaaS. And when you think about it, it makes sense. A lot of us are trying to determine how we take applications that have been built for on-premise and to cloud enable them. But put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's starting up a company. Maybe you have 10, 15, 20 employees, and you're looking at how you're going to get your company going. You have marketing costs, and you have costs that tie to equipment, perhaps if you're doing manufacturing. You have costs that tie to enabling or, putting in place a sales team. And last thing you want to do is invest in IT infrastructure. It just makes a lot of sense to be able to go out and instead of buying software packages, start paying as you go for a cloud-based SaaS solution. So, what we think, given Gartner Forrester 2016, is in the next 3 years, you're going to see companies, and the vast majority of companies, move to a public or private cloud-type scenario from a software vendor perspective. So ISV, independent software vendors, will be offering their solutions in some sort of cloud-type scenario. Doesn't mean on-premise is completely going to go away, but cloud will become the predominant selling model. The pricing is going to shift from an upfront capital model to a pay-as-you-go model. And you see some of that happening now, even with what Microsoft has in the field from a subscription basis. Not only is there a pay-as-you-go model for cloud, but there's a pay-as-you-go model for buying on-premise software. It's something that the market likes, and when the market likes it, I think people tend to position it in the marketplace. And as I said earlier, I think cloud has become a nice-to-have, has gone from a nice-to-have feature to a requirement when people are looking to deploy software in a large number of deployments. So when you look at moving to the cloud and what makes them want to move to the cloud and the things that drive it, there is expansion of functionality and the ability to have more in the software for less because you're paying as you go. People don't want to give up the ability to have integrations. They want to be able to still control the environment. So a lot of the things that have driven successful implementations on-premise, they still want out in the cloud solution. When people get to a point, or companies get to a point when they're looking at hardware replacements, they have upgrade cycles, they're looking at restructuring their support and maintenance, all those things tie to cloud deployments and an appetite to move to cloud. And I think that you always see some sort of tie to cost savings and then a skill set supplementing as well. People who understand the application in the back-end data room, and in this case in a cloud environment, make a lot more sense for organizations than do a group that is kind of understaffed, running around, trying to get things done, and able to support things to a limited standpoint. So there's a lot of considerations that go into it, and when you look at it from an on-premise versus cloud perspective, there are certainly advantages to cloud, right? There's advantages from an availability perspective, so cloud is going to come out of the box with levels of redundancy, whether it's 1 level, 2, 3 levels of redundancy, an enhanced amount of skill within the product because you have people that live and breathe that application every single day, ability to have support on a 24/7 model, and not just pager support, but people that are online, ready to jump in and help. And I think that's become hugely important because we've become an always-on world. It's not a scenario where people work 9 to 5. Everybody is answering their cell phones at 11 o'clock at night, or maybe not answering their cell phones, but at least answering emails on their cell phones. When you don't have your cell phone with you, sometimes you can still feel the buzz. It's almost like a phantom buzz because it's part of you. And it's with that expectation means that IT groups need to support, and IT groups just aren't built for it, or a lion's share of mid-market and SMB IT groups aren't built for it. So it just makes sense to go with a solution that has that in place. Very interesting, I think, when we look at statistics are the disconnect between when you ask somebody just directly who's kind of in the marketplace, or a software vendor or a VAR, why do people move to cloud? The first reaction almost every single time is cost. And almost by 3 times more important is agility and speed. And by that, what we mean is the ability to go to market, the ability to add and remove users, the ability to get up and running, the ability to have a smaller window for implementation. All of those things are very important to buyers, and those are the things that are resonating. It's not to say that reducing costs is not important. It's tied for second, but it's a pretty far removed second. And tied also with reducing costs is an improvement in quality of service. So you have to think about it when you're looking to move your software solution to a cloud-based environment, that it's not just about cost, and it's not just about putting in place a per user per month model, but it's about getting to a point where your implementation is actually quicker because you have templated approaches, and you need to be able to have a solution that you put in place that's not slower than on-premise, it's not less configurable, but actually improves for the end users. There's a lot of considerations that go into place, and there's companies that put forth service level agreements, and they're oftentimes service level agreements that are 4 nines, 5 nines, sometimes 100%, and they don't hit them. You want to make sure that when you're getting this going and you're presenting it to your customers, that you're going to be able to provide the level of service that you commit to. So there's really a couple different models to look at when you're looking at the technical components of deploying in a cloud environment. And really it's public versus private. And when you think about it, it's really multi-tenant versus single-tenant, and there's use cases for both. I think that Office 365 and Microsoft Exchange and SharePoint are great multi-tenant type solutions, commodity type solutions. There's very little control over upgrades. You can kind of think of multi-tenant like a condominium. You get a little bit of your own space, but there's a lot of shared pieces. There's the hallway and the grounds and so forth. You're not going to be able to paint the outside the color you want. In a single tenant, it's like owning your own house, and you can do whatever you want with it. You can have the highest degree of customization. You can meet more complex compliance demands, and you can really get a high level of performance, especially if there's a high transaction level, or if you want to control upgrades, if you want to be able to have a little bit more granular level of control with the people that you have in place. So what we see oftentimes when we're working with software vendors is that we will provide a single tenant solution to them, so we're not sharing with other cloud groups or with other companies that are providing cloud solutions. And they may have a multi-tenant solution for their customers, or in some cases they have multi-tenant solutions or single-tenant solutions for each of their customers, and we have a carved-out environment for them, and they carve out each individual environment for their customers, and it really depends upon your solution. So I mentioned this earlier and alluded to it, but if you look at the marketplace, it's pretty staggering, the numbers as we move forward. Right now, if you look at it from a 2014 perspective, it's about a $20 billion market, and a lot of the market right now is infrastructure as a service. And by dynamic, by the way, it means changing. This is not a slide that's tied to Microsoft Dynamics, so I just want to clarify that. If you look at the marketplace, when you move out to 2020, it's almost a $70 billion market, and a lion's share of it falls into application or SaaS-based software as a service, over $27 billion, and the infrastructure as a service component, $21 billion. So when you combine those together, it's a very significant marketplace. It's one that customers are going to move to, and it's kind of a tsunami of change that's going to happen, and it's not something I think that we can look and try to determine how we stop it. It's how you take best advantage of it, and whether you decide that you're going to look at it as something you're going to add an offering for, or if it's going to become a core focus like it did for us. So just giving those of you on the call an example of some of the ISV partners we've worked with. These are just a few. We have a multitude of ISV partners we work with, and they've looked at our private cloud for a number of different solutions. And I think that part of what helped them from our perspective was being able to help enable their sales reps, help them with the comp plans that they're going to need from a business development perspective. And of course, we did different levels of service with different groups. But getting to that understanding of what it takes to transforming the customer experience. So if you look at some of the things that you need to have in place, I think it's very important to understand the difference between just moving to the cloud and creating an entire business around cloud. I'm a hiker, and it's very much like the difference between buying boots for a hike and preparing for the entire journey. Of course, if you just bought the boots, you wouldn't have anything that gives you an idea of how to get where you're going. You need trail maps. You need GPS to get there. You need supplies to make sure that you're going to get there and plenty of water. And the same goes for providing a cloud solution. When you look at it from the perspective of the technical component, that's one thing. But then you have to sit down and figure out, okay, is this going to be something that we're going to bring up when a customer brings it up? So in other words, we're going to be reactive, or are we going to be proactive, or are we going to decide to make this how we lead with our solution? And there's a big difference. If you start with the premise that you're going to keep continuing to position on-premise, you're probably going to lose some deals because people are looking for a cloud solution in a cloud-first type company. You also, I think, lose some ability to drive valuation in your organization and to drive the ability to provide a higher level of service for your customers because you have a controlled environment and you're able to implement the exact same way every single time. So if you look at kind of a standard implementation in how organizations approach a cloud kind of movement and how ISVs look at it specifically, generally there's some kind of customer demand and there's urgency perhaps. One or two key deals, so one or two key customers decide, hey, we want to move to a cloud-based environment. Do you guys have a cloud solution? And somebody within the organization starts scrambling to try to build something out, or maybe there's some space in a data center that they have servers and start provisioning it, or maybe you select a hosting firm. Once you get to that point, you move that one customer out, and if you get lucky, there's not a ton of problems with it, and then you start onboarding other customers. More likely, there's some issues because you haven't done this before, and it's really, your company's really built to support and to build software, and all of a sudden this customer is having a ton of problems and you have to deal with them. If there aren't problems you're moving forward, generally what we see is that companies respond to need. They're not proactive. They're looking at this as a reactive model. So if somebody brings up cloud, then we're going to go ahead and sell cloud. And what they see is slow, if any, adoption. Now, you may be thinking, well, we're responding to the marketplace, and the marketplace is telling us when they want cloud versus on-premise. But I think what's happening is if you don't get yourself in a position where you're positioning cloud up front, then you're losing out on opportunities. If you look at stats for 2014, somewhere around 13 or 14% of the marketplace has done some kind of cloud movement, private or public cloud. So 11, 12% is what we've seen over the last 3 years. So as you move forward, 2014, you're looking at somewhere around 27 to 35% of companies, depending on whether it's Forrester or Gartner, are looking at implementing either a virtual private cloud or a public cloud solution. So there's a massive ramp and acceleration right now of people that are looking for cloud-based software solutions. And Of course, the smaller amounts happen. We're still on the very front end, I think, of the adoption curve, but we're starting to reach the adoption curve. So there are, when you think about it, a lot of decisions that need to be made if you're looking at a cloud solution. And a lot of it ties to your pricing. A lot of it ties to how your infrastructure and compliance needs tie into it, and we get that. But a lion's share of it really ties to how you get there for your entire business and what your marketing efforts look like, how you're going to tie it into SEO, how you're going to comp your sales reps, and how you're going to move them to start thinking cloud first and stop thinking about just getting the next software sale. So just to give you kind of a high level of some of the things that we've seen be successful when you're looking at a movement to a cloud-based solution, there of course is the technical piece and kind of an evaluation of the technical architecture and how you get to optimize it and build it in place, and then what your customer experience needs to look like and the requirements and what level of uptime you're going to need. What it looks like when the customer consumes your service. Is it through a terminal server or Citrix, or is it through a web browser? What their expectations are going to be, how you tie your support desk into the support desk of the cloud group you might be working with, and then the operational planning piece of how different issues are handled as you go forward. But really the part that I think is often missed is the next generation piece of how you get to a point where you're positioning it properly in the marketplace, and the sales readiness and the marketing readiness, and some sort of enablement with your partner that understands how to position cloud, and then ongoing customer loyalty and support. So, what are first steps when you're looking at deploying? Well, first, you're going to look at, I think, doing some sort of POC or proof of concept. You want to make sure that you have in place the ability to understand how your solution is going to look in the cloud and kind of to eat your own dog food. You're going to want to do some proof of concepts that tie to probably an SOW that you may have out in the marketplace. Look at doing some demo environments so that your customers can see what it looks like, and make sure that you have the right operational commitment from your cloud platform provider or from your internal group. So some of the things that tie to operational planning really are things that some of them are cloud-based ideas, but some of them are ideas that tie to a wide range of really operational models that have been in the marketplace for a long time. So what's your service level agreement with your customers? Is your solution one that's highly integrated, so it's going to end up being something that is hybrid, so you're going to have to tie to on-premise systems, you're going to have to tie to other public cloud type solutions. What your billing model is going to look like. Some groups like to look at it that there's quarterly billing, others look at it that they like to get paid per year up front. That model is fairly difficult to get to. I think it's something that is beneficial for the provider, but it's not the way that customers like to consume this type of service. How customers are going to get to you when they have issues or when they have a sales question that they're looking to have answered, and then finally connection points and how your software package works within the specific cloud environment. So to give you an example, when we were looking at how to get to a point where we were sales ready, it's very difficult to get a group that has been predominantly selling on-premise to get to a point that they understand how to sell cloud. And we made the decision early on that we were going to lead with cloud, that was the best model for our customers. It was the best model for us to be able to manage our customers. So we certainly still offer, and we still offer now, on-premise deployments from a TriBridge standpoint, but we do provide a cloud-first type model. So some of the things that need to tie to that are, first of all, executive buy-in, and some of that ties to how people are bonused on a yearly basis. And we help ISVs with that every day and looking at what it looks like for an exec to change from a model that is based on selling X amount of software in a quarter or a year to selling more of a subscription model. And whether you break it down by the number of months, and it's 3 years, 36 months, or whether it's broken down by 24 months, some of that ties to the capital and the amount of time you can wait until you get your return on investment. Some of it ties to just the granular pieces that enable a sales force, like changing your templates and setting up what your email campaigns look like, setting up what your financial models look like for your specific implementations as you move forward. What we're seeing is the very beginning parts of SaaS where the actual implementation is also tied into it as well. And I think as you move forward 3 or 4 years, you're going to see where people are going to want to consume it on a monthly model, even with the upfront investment, so it's all tied into it. What do your contracts look like, and what's your exposure? What does the backup look like, and what's the retention policy? All these things tie to the operational piece, but also tie to how you're positioning the solution to be able to enable your sales force. I think just as important as what you do with the sales force is how you're going to market it. And you have to break down marketing not only into net new logo type marketing, but you also need to look at how you're going to position it specifically for your internal customers. Because you have customers that are in place that you have an on-premise solution perhaps, you're looking at how you move them over to cloud, or you may not be thinking about it, but you have to remember that other organizations that have cloud solutions are looking at your customers as targets, and you have to make sure that your customers aren't looking outside because they don't know that you have a cloud solution. So at the very least, you want some level of education about what you have in place and how you're doing it. You have to have specifics around how to do your pipeline call and cadence, just tied to cloud as opposed to on-premise implementations, so it's a different model altogether. What your pricing sheets look like, and then you have to really train up your sales force and have some joint selling exercises. I think some of the things that can help make your organization successful, once you have a good solution in place, it's a quality solution, you've probably had some word of mouth onboarding of customers, and it could be internal customers, and it can be some net news. You really have to develop a comprehensive go-to-market strategy. And some of that ties to building out from a tactical perspective, cloud-specific marketing collateral, then developing some demand gen campaigns and figuring out, okay, based on wanting to drive X number of opportunities, I need Y number of sales qualified leads, and I need Z number of top of funnel leads. And those are going to come from webinars, emails, call down campaigns, events, whatever it happens to be. And then you have to determine based on what you've decided as far as, am I going to lead with cloud or am I going to make cloud just an also offer, what's your web presence going to look like, and what's your website going to look like, and then what is your search engine optimization strategy as well. So if you look at it from an enablement perspective, when we're building this stuff out, we would generally work on joint campaigns with lessons learned that we've had, and we would have initiatives tied to funding, where we help, and I think that you should see that with cloud providers that you work with. We have best practices tied around it, so campaigns that have worked in the past and things that are successful that lead to high conversion rates are items that we would put in place with the ISVs that we work with. As you move forward, it's important to get an idea of what your success has been and where your success is coming from, how often your customers are up, what kind of issues are they having, what kind of deployments are successful and not successful, and then what's successful from a sales perspective and marketing perspective as well. So with that, I'd like to open it for questions and answers. See if anybody has anything that's top of mind that they wanted to ask.
All right, thanks, Greg. We did have another poll question that we could run based on some of those guidelines that you offered. I don't know if you want to run that now or maybe wait till the next session for that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and run the poll question, and then while we're doing that, if people have questions, they can go ahead and type them in.
Great. So one question that came in here, I don't think you see it. Do you find that your cloud clients are customers of other partners or TriBridge only, and do you have a breakdown on that?
Yeah, we have a mix of both. So we have TriBridge customers, of course, but then we have a wide range of customers in different solutions that are TriBridge competitors.
All right. What do you think the profile is of the customers currently most interested in cloud?
Yeah, so a lot of people think that the profile, it's a great question, is in the SMB arena. I think you see that for some small commodity-based, but you see a lot of cloud movement in mid-market. You see a lot of organizations from an industry perspective that are professional services or healthcare that are embracing cloud. And you see the lower end of the upper market or larger companies that are also embracing cloud. Anybody who has any kind of startup footprint, I think, also is a very likely cloud mover.
Okay, great. And yeah, there were actually a couple of folks who asked that same type of question. Feel free to use the chat or the Q&A to enter your questions now. We have a couple others here. What different types of cloud-based pricing models should people be considering?
Yeah, I think a lot of the pricing models tie to how you present your solution to customers, and not how you present it now, but how you would present it as a cloud solution. And it can certainly be, in some cases, a site-based solution, so each customer costs X. More likely what we see is a pricing model where it ends up being a per-user model. Now, a per-user model can get dicey because all of us are not Microsoft with millions of users in Office 365 and determining that it's going to be $5 per user per month, right? These are more expensive solutions because they're tied to specific customers. So, and there's different pieces that tie into it. So the easiest way to figure that out, it's not necessarily easy per se, but the best way I think is to look at some sort of forward pricing. In other words, determine the number of users you're expecting that you're going to be able to onboard within a period of time, and then you figure out what your buyback is or your investment window to get your money back, and then you're able to come to a conclusion on a pricing piece that fits within the market.
All right. What type of marketing services does Concerto offer, I assume, meaning for ISVs?
Yeah, so we have a number of levels of marketing once we get a customer within our cloud platform. We start off with some best practices in talking about what we've seen be successful to be able to position on-premise type solutions or solutions that maybe have kind of toyed with cloud, and we see a lot of partners that have become kind of accidental hosters, and they start providing cloud solutions, and they've kind of done it out of their data center. So best practices around how to get the message out and what that message should look like. We have a number of buyer personas, which are kind of profiles of buyers and what they're looking for and what's important to them. And I think that helps when we're looking at positioning with our ISVs. We have templates that we put in place that can be used for webinars and for call down campaigns. We have online learning for their sales forces to just give a generic basic overview of what cloud solutions look like. And then finally, we do varying levels of enablement funds and do joint marketing campaigns with customers that come on to Concerto.
Let me make a last call for questions here. We have one more in the queue. Can Concerto work with other cloud solutions?
So we certainly do. We work with a number of public cloud solutions. We work with SPS Commerce for EDI. We work with connections over into Azure for some stuff. So we certainly can.
Okay, that is the end of the question queue here. So I think we can start wrapping up. So Greg, thanks first of all for presenting today and for sharing with our audience.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for being online today. Great audience. Appreciate you taking the time to ask questions, to attend, to answer a couple poll questions. Please be on the lookout for more sessions coming up this spring. This session will be recorded, and we'll find a way to make that available to you very soon. So thanks again, and have a great day.